Okay, so we are on day 2 of Mishlei 1520. Bein chacham yesamach av uchsil adam boze imo. A wise son will gladden his father, but a fool of a man disgraces or degrades or scorns or spurns his mother. Our questions were, what, if any, is the specific practical decision-making scenario? Seems like it's more long-term. So is there a specific scenario here? What is ben chacham? And what is Ksil Adam? And that is really two questions. We have why Ksil Adam as opposed to either Ben Ksil or just regular Ksil. That's the usual thing. What is implied by Davka Ben Chacham as opposed to Chacham? Obviously, it's saying Ben because that's what's relevant, but is Ben Chacham at all different from a Chacham in terms of age, in terms of midos, etc.? Okay, question 3, is this Davka these two archetypes, or are these stand-ins for generically good or bad Mishlei actors? Isaac asked that question yesterday. I mean, I think just I want to comment on that in a meta sense, is that I feel like the only terms I've seen applied in that way, not the only terms, the usual terms are Tzaddik and Russia for some reason, I feel like are often applied generically, but Ben Chacham and Ksil Adams to me sound too specific for me to think that. So I'm not saying it can't be, but I'm just weighing into my own intuition. 4, what's the cause and effect relationship between the chacham quality of the son and the simcha of the father? And then what's the foolish quality of the adam and the bizui to the mother? What is each of them doing to make it happen? What does boze mean? 6, is each of these actors doing this intentionally or unintentionally? Either way, what is their motive or internal cause? Meaning what within them is causing this to happen, regardless of how their actions impact the person. 7, is this davka the av and davka the aim, or does each half apply to both parents? If it is davka, why highlight specifically that effect on each parent, or on that parent? Also, what effect does each have on each parent, which is not stated? And if it isn't davka, is there a reason why it associates each with each, as opposed to just like stylistically, you got to divvy it up? 8, how are the two halves opposite in terms of the effects? Yismach and boze do not seem like opposites, as opposed to Mishlei 10:1, Yismach and tuga, happiness and depression. Those are opposites, but this does not seem like it. 9, what is the difference between 15:20 and 10:1? So again, 10:1 is Ben Chacham Yisamach Av Uben Ksil Tugas Imo. 10, who's the intended audience? Is this primarily for the parents or for the offspring? 11, what's the Havmin? It seems obvious. 12, who cares? Who cares if you make your dad happy or your mom degraded? 13, what is the practical application and when is the practical application? Meaning, is this for when you're raising your kids, or is this when you have a kid who's like that? And then 14, according to Rav Sheishes, this section is where Shlomo starts talking about particular midos. What particular midos is this talking about, given how generic it seems? Okay, so we had some approaches yesterday. So Isaac made the good move of saying that this is talking about the parent-son relationship, but when they're grown up. And we know that because it says Ksil Adam, which we're reading as like a grown up, like a man child, a man who's a fool. And then you can infer from there that the Ben is, well, you don't just infer from there, but in other words, the overall subject matter, you have to put 2 and 2 together, the son from the first half and the Adam from the second half. So I think that's a good move, regardless of what Isaac says. Then, regardless of where we take it. Isaac said the second half is saying that the Ksil doesn't want to acknowledge that he was ever dependent on or under the auspices of his mother, so he scorns her to the point where he doesn't even associate himself as her son. I'm just an Adam, I'm not a Ben. And then the question is, what's the practical application? Is being aware of this phenomenon, or as a phenomenon, gives you more data to make decisions in navigating these relationships. In other words, if you are a parent and you know that your son is going to want to resist acknowledging his dependence on you, then maybe back off a bit, and like give him independence to individuate, as the psychologists say, or vice versa. Isaac didn't really elaborate on what the first half is saying, to my recollection. Okay, Ezra Fader said, if we say that Chacham is someone who is excelling intellectually, whereas Ksil is someone whose psyche is immature, regardless of what their intelligence is, so then it's associating the Chacham with the father because the father is the one who's associated with learning and teaching and Torah. Mother's associated with Ksil because her role is nurturing the psyche and developing his midos. So if that turns out bad, it reflects poorly on her, whereas if the Chacham turns out good, then it reflects positively on the father. Question, what's the Chiddush? Moshe Koppel first said that there is a natural inclination towards rebelling against your listening to your parents or having resistance. So the person who is on the way to becoming a ksil leans into this. He distances himself from his mother, and then that's going to result to him becoming an actual ksil because he's avoiding learning from her. And then as a result of that, so he shames his mother, and then he has to deal with that as well. Like no adult child likes the mother, feeling degraded by him, however we say that. So you're gonna have to deal with that. So it's like a double whammy. You don't get the development, and you also have to deal with the social fallout of not being developed and reflecting badly on your mother. But the Chacham may have these resistances, but he'll force himself to find a way to learn from his father and get the benefit anyway. That will make him a Chacham and will improve the relationship. And he'll have the benefits of that positive relationship later on. And then we said this extends to any case of someone as a supervisor. So it could be a Rebbe, it could be a boss. Okay. So like it is a strategy giving you for how to deal with these feelings of resistance and get the most out of the situation in the short term and the long term. Sean said that parents should also recognize the tendencies in their kids and then guide them accordingly. And then Oren said, I don't know what I meant by that. I think he was just saying it doesn't mean that you automatically like subordinate yourself to your father. Okay, fine. Yeah, okay. So then, Ariel, you had an idea, which you didn't get a chance to say. Does it?
Yeah, none of them was taken. I just need another.
Okay, sure. All right, so another minute or another second?
Okay, no, sorry.
Shall I go? Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we ended off yesterday by reading the Metzudas David, right? So let's look at that again. Yismach Av, Biroso b'moshav hachachamim. So what type of simcha does this bring? So this is not the simcha that comes from the one-on-one relationship, and not even the simcha that comes from just the father, seeing that he raised a good child. This is the social. Like I said, the bumper sticker. My son is a chacham. We should totally print those. If you have stickers that say like. You ever seen the stickers that like I know I give it to Torah, like okay fine, so like anyway, but maybe a chacham wouldn't put the sticker on anyway. When he sees his son in the session in the whatever the socio-intellectual economic group of chachamim, that makes him happy. And then boze imo. It's the way of women to fawn over, spoil whatever their children, and to withhold musar. And the people will degrade her. Lomar, saying Arura shezeh gadla. Accursed is this one who raised this guy. Yeah.
Okay, so my idea is
okay, good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, But my question that I was trying to resolve, that's in another minute, was like if the people, meaning like the father, I think like if the son pleasing the father is like if he's like in line with like the father, the chacham, he's basically the father wants to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
And like the son is gonna be in line with that legacy, whatever. Like success or like it could be anywhere, it could be Torah, it could be wealth, it could be society. But the mother like and I think the father by nature is able to like. A man can disconnect emotionally from people generally, but I think women or mothers especially, like it's hard for them to disconnect from emotionally from the children, even though they may be wicked or foolish or whatever. And like it's wicked. It's like okay, wicked maybe like a Russia, like they could disconnect philosophically, but like a fool, it's almost like. He's not a Russia, he's not a chacham, like you want to help him, you just see the person is like he's struggling or whatever, and it's like problematic, but like the reality is like it's hard to emotionally pull away from that.
Right. I would tend to agree with you here.
Yeah. So my question is like on the people being mivazah her, because that's what I was gonna say also.
Yeah.
Like why wouldn't they also mivazah the father?
So it sounds like from what he's saying that they're going to because women. If there's a failure in discipline, not discipline, in like musar, right? Like that kind of, I mean, it's discipline, but like raising a kid with good midos, then they usually will say that the woman is the one who withheld it. I guess because fathers have more reputation of being disciplinarians, maybe. So like we're assuming that the father did everything he could, but then the mother's one who spoiled him, Seems like a societal assumption. Yeah, it seems like an assumption. Yeah, David?
I don't know how to say it's because I definitely do know the phenomenon of like parents that have a hard time disciplining their kids, particularly in public.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if people like see me like telling my kid you can't do this, you can't do that, and like it definitely doesn't feel good. So they kind of should let their kid get away with whatever it is. And then that winds up producing an Adam Kasil, and that winds up like looking bad on the parents who then didn't do that. And on the flip side, there is someone who sees like they see the father is disciplining him, keeping him being midrash, whatever it is, in a good way, that then does produce this child, and they could see through the parenting and what they did in public, they will then say this is the product of that.
Right.
I'm not trying to put that into a chidush. Like it seems like it's saying something of like still be willing to rebuke your kid in public.
So I'm not even sure if it's talking about public rebuke, right? I think the challenge here is let's narrow this down. What is the address of his idea? What are the parameters here? Certainly we can, let's see what we can agree on. This is certainly advice to the parents, it seems, right? This is not advice for the kids. Secondly, he is taking the davka approach for the mother, not to say that it is not the father's fault. Like, for example, what father didn't discipline his son in Tanakh?
Multiple.
No.
Yeah, I don't think we blame Shlomo. Oh, I was thinking David.
No.
Doesn't it say that David didn't, which of his sons? I always forget which one. Yeah, Absalom, right? That he didn't.
It was a rebel.
Adoniyahu. I think it was, yeah, I don't really know.
But it was also the Cohen.
Yeah.
In the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But does it, I forgot, does it explicitly say there that he?
Yeah.
Okay, fine, yeah. Okay, right.
Because I'll repeat.
Yeah. So this certainly can apply to both parents is the point I'm making here. But it's talking about societal assumptions. So I think now the question is, why are we, I think there's actually I'm going to continue my track record. I'm going to quote Rashi. Rashi says, he is the cause of people degrading the mother. So I think it's the same thing as Metzudas, but he's just stating it in more explicit terms here. Yeah.
I would think it's actually the opposite.
Yes.
Oh, the opposite?
Because here it's the focus on the child that he's causing it, but over there.
Okay, so the focus might be different, right? But the scope that we're still talking about, that we're talking about the degradation that comes to her from others.
Right. Yeah. Metzudas, it's her fault, seemingly.
Right.
It's his fault.
Oh, you think it's his fault here?
Explain that,
kid. It seems so.
That's interesting. I mean, I know he's the immediate cause. He's the immediate cause here, right? Yeah, that's a good question.
Is it possible that is degrading the mother because she may be defending the son also? Meaning like
I would need to see evidence for that. I don't know.
I'm saying like if you agree with the people, my son's a whack job, like I mean like okay, everyone agrees. Like the father would also. I mean, like maybe she has to defend the son. Maybe in a way, like the mother's nature is to protect the cub.
Could be. I mean, that definitely does happen. Yeah, Isaac.
So I think firstly, if we take the rotations approach, this is the start of the section.
Yeah.
I think this might just be talking about like long-term consequences
Mm-hmm.
of being like is it like shying away from immediate pain in disciplining a kid,
Mm-hmm.
And the long-term pain of that, or you go through the short-term pain and then the long-term you're like even when you're not specifically interacting with sentence first. Long-term, like good consequences.
Yeah.
And then I think the specifics of what it's talking about is it's that even when he's not directly interacting with him, he's just like happy at the thought because he's sitting with Chum, he's turned out really well, and so the very like thought of him is like brings him joy.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that it's him interacting with other people. It's nothing. He's not getting any personal benefit. Whereas the aim now she's getting long-term pain like her son is a disgrace and an embarrassment, and that reflects badly on
right.
her.
Okay, so
I know it's off the name, so I wasn't focusing on either parent.
Yeah, so I think just combining what Isaac and David said is that I think what this is speaking to, maybe I am leaning more towards what David said, is that there is an emotional there's an emotional short-term pain, but I think maybe I want to go on the social pain. There's a social emotional pain of facing the fact that you have a kid who has bad middos that you need to discipline. And one way that parents sometimes, and parents try to avoid feeling that. So one way they avoid it is by defending or denying it.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Another way is that they will maybe avoid doing it in public or whatever. So what this is saying is that okay, you are avoiding allowing yourself to feel this pain here, but what's going to happen is you're going to get long-term pain. It's going to be worse, and here's the thing: it's going to be permanent, because once the kid turns out to be a Ksil Adam, that's going to last the rest of your life or his life, you know? Whereas here it's in the immediate. And actually the example I want to give is really from what I see the opposite, which is, I'm sure this is true of many parents in our community, but I see this the most with Jessie Fishbein because of her parenting philosophy in general and also her unschooling, which is that when she raised her kids through unschooling, you know, and giving like this kind of independence that people would not normally have, you know, then she had to endure a lot of people looking down on her, of letting her kids walk around without shoes or without a jacket, you know, and people will say, well, what kind of a mother are you, you know? And so she, you know, has had to say, like, you know, I have to endure this societal stigma now in order to raise a well-adjusted kid. And then that's going to be the big payoff here, you know? So I think like the feeling that parents have of not wanting to experience the degradation causes them to make bad discipline decisions. And again, this is the Mishlei kicker here. Mishlei is not telling you to raise a chacham because that's best for your avodas Hashem, or because chachma is our value. Say, no, you care about the way society is going to look at you. Look at how society is going to look at you if you don't parent your kid. You know, it's working with your motivations. And I actually want to say this out right here. Hold on. I'm gonna go on a. Actually, no. I'll take what Isaac said, and then I'm gonna go on a tangent.
Can you explain this more first, like what you just said, just so I don't miss this point?
I'll come around and say it again when I give this as an example. Yeah.
I was just gonna give another example of how parents might do this.
Yeah.
Where when a kid is doing something that is, you know, socially uncomfortable, but you actually think as a parent think it's fine.
Yeah.
Then if they're doing it in public, you discipline them, but in private you don't. And then that shows you like you're being like consistent. You know.
Right. That's a good example. Also, yeah. The applications of this are diverse in terms of how many different types of bad decisions you can make. But I think it's speaking to the emotion. So someone emailed me. A listener emailed me and said, there's someone who listens to a bunch of shiurim from YBT. So he said, let me just see if this is relevant to read the whole thing. Yeah. So, okay, I'll just read this. So he says, I recall learning from me about being motivated by superego versus ego. And I did not use those, the ego terms, but whatever. I think most of my education from at home and in school was the former: guilt, musar, values. Can you explain what it means to be motivated by ego, which you say YBT emphasizes? I don't think I speak in those terms, but at the same time, I've listened to some shiurim on the YBT website, and there's a theme I hear throughout about reason/intellect versus emotions. Okay. And the latter being the dominant force. It seems to me experientially that being motivated by emotions is very important. The idea that one should learn or do mitzvahs because reason dictates so, or because one will cultivate perfection, or because it's the wisdom of God, I'm not sure will get you very far. The competing drive to want to stay in bed, to bum out, etc., will be more dominant. Thus, I find my friends who are motivated by an emotional drive of the simcha of learning, or the ego of being a Talmid Chacham, or because they want meaning in life, to be more conducive, meaning those types of motives are more conducive. In fact, I learned that Olam Yargi's Yetzer Hara, that a person should always incite his Yetzer Hara, it's an incomplete quote here, is that one should combat the Yetzer Hara with competing emotional drive and not pit it against reason, as this will be unsuccessful. What are your thoughts? So it's basically a question of like, emotion versus reason, and what should you embrace? So I gave a long answer, but one part of my answer was that the approach in Mishlei is not to try to pit emotions against reason against emotions, but to take the emotional drive that you have and show that if you use your reason to satisfy it, then you'll be more successful. So my point here was, if you say you should raise a good kid because you should raise a chacham because he'll be a gadol b'Torah, or because you have a chiyuv of Talmud Torah to teach your son, or because we value chachma as a society. So then, okay, yeah, that's true, but is that really going to motivate you? Or don't raise a kid with bad midos because bad midos are bad. Like that kind of argument is not one that Shlomo uses. What he's saying is, oh, you care about social stigma? Well, let's examine this. If you don't want social stigma, then you have a choice. Either endure the social stigma now in order to discipline your kid to get good social feedback in the future and avoid bad long-term social stigma, or don't discipline your kid now, and then you'll get stuck with a ksil adam, and people will blame it all on you, and you'll have to endure that. So it's harnessing your emotional drives and saying, yeah, apply chachma to your emotional drives, not just do this because of the reasons,
Right.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, are you saying this is an inherently viable approach, or just as a low lishma?
I'm saying that this is the one that's going to work on people.
So is it like, meaning is it better to get to the lishma? Meaning like lishma balishma.
Yeah.
So is there like a value in the low lishma itself, or only insofar as it leads to lishma?
I think only insofar as it leads to the lishma. Yeah, I don't think we said there's yeah, I don't think caring about, I think ultimately you shouldn't care about what people think, but the point is that people do.
Right.
Yeah,
I just want to say, like, whenever I have that like line of thinking with, I feel like there's always a danger that then you want to skip past the lishma.
Right.
Like, oh, if it's not actually good, then I'll just do the lishma, not the low lishma.
Yeah, right.
And then it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do see, like, this is in terms of the Ben Chacham Yisamach Av. I mean, you see, in the same way I'm using Jesse as an example of like sometimes implementing this pasuk means not disciplining your kid in the immediate by the standards of what other people say you should discipline your kid by. Like, it has to go based on the kid. I've seen the mistake in a lot of second generation YBT kids where their parent is so intent on, I want to raise my kid as a Talmud Chacham, that they force learning on them in a way that is not taking into account the kid's development or his personality, and then that ends up being damaging, and so that's another expression of this. Okay, so I feel like we got an idea here, right? So this is for the parent, and saying that if you care about social stigma, then look to the future and do what's right now to produce that future. Yeah.
Now, this isn't what the Metzudas David is saying, I don't think, but is there a way to also explain the pasuk where the child would directly mevaza the mother instead of mevaza through other people?
Good question. I have not seen that yet. I haven't been through all the Mefarshim yet, but I think so. If you said that, then you'd have to say that the wait, hold on a second. No. Okay, I think there is an approach to that. Who did I see it in? Let's actually do.
What does he say on the 10-1, by the way? I feel like this is a very similar idea to the pasuk that we did 5 years ago.
I'm happy you remember. 10-1.
It's a classic idea.
It is a classic idea. Yeah.
I remember learning this in YBT or from Rambam years ago.
Mishlei Shlomo lefi she'ad kol diber b'shevach haTorah ukilu hi tomar amareha. Oh, sorry, that's an introduction. Okay. Yismach av bir also yoshev moshev chachamim. Okay, that's the same exactly. Tugasimo ki yaksil yasmid l'sheves bayis im imo. Uvchol es roa shtuso etzvona miruba. So that is different, saying that the ksil basically is a bum and just hangs out at home all day, right? And his mother will see his shtus and her depression will increase. So it's interesting. That is not talking about the social. That's talking about direct. Yeah, like she's spending. He's living in his parents' basement, right? So yeah,
classic bum.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's sadness. It's not.
That's sadness. Yeah, right. Okay. So there is an approach along the lines of what you're saying. I actually want to take this opportunity. I want to now do bleed netter every Rav Sheishes, because now that we're starting, this is the first time we've had a section where I have him now. So let's see what he says here. So I want to try to do him every time if possible. Uksil Adam Boze Imo. Yomar Ksil Adam. Oh, sorry. Ben Chacham Yisamach Av. Derech Av Lalamed es Beno Chachma o Umanus o Darchei HaMusar. All three realms, right? So it's the way of the father to teach his son Chachma, or a profession, or Musar. Valkein kasher tetze pu'ulaso lahatzlacha v'yira ki alsa yado belimud hahu yismach. So once he's successful, and he'll see that his that he had a hand in this. In his learning, then he'll rejoice. Alkain yichas hasimcha la'av. Therefore, it ascribes simcha to the av. So this is talking about a simcha. I mean, I guess this could be lo lishma or lishma, right? Meaning, well, it's interesting. Yeah, it could be lo lishma or lishma. It's lo lishma in that, oh, look what a good son I raised, right? And it could also be like, objectively speaking, then you had a role in doing something that's objectively good, and you take joy, like a true, let's put it this way. A true lishma father will take as much joy in a ben chacham of himself or ben chacham of his chaver. Meaning, I am joyous in the fact that this person exists. Maybe in terms of implementing Ratzon Hashem of like but it won't be an ego thing. All right, fine. Uksil adam boze imo yomar ksil adam al haksil hagamor. So this is an interesting interpretation. Not a mature ksil in the sense that he's an adult, but a full-fledged ksil, meaning he's a man in the sense of not a tinok or na'ar, developmentally a na'ar, but he's an adam.
Right? That's like
like he's reached maturity on the ksil meter. Okay, right. No matter what his age is. What was that?
Ksil man.
Yeah, he's a ksil man, right. Al ksil hagamor ki azhu bizayon imo. Then he'll be a bizayon to his mother. Ki yomru, they'll say ki imo here hargi lasu. Mitchila behergel hara b'kadnusa. They'll say that his mother accustomed him in bad habits from his youth. Valkein lo yuchal ha'av liyaser oso. Therefore, his father will not be able to discipline him. Uloho ilo achar asher ba elav kilkul b'gidulo. So his father will not even be able to correct him because he had this fault in his upbringing. Yeah, valkein imo nivzis. So he's in davka imo, right? Meaning the father, despite the father's best efforts. If the mother does a bad job raising the kid with bad habits when he's growing up, then his father won't be able to do anything. Ve'alkein imo nivzis. Therefore, his mother will be degraded. Ki yechashvu aleha shehi haisa bara hamusar achar shegidulin elu gadla. They'll see that he has bad musar because his mother raised him that way. V'hi eksil adam, and he'll be eksil adam. More al haksil hagamor kamo uksil adam yival enu. So that's another pasuk in Mishlei, I think. V'hu yihi pera adam. So that's by Esav, right? Yeah, Yishmael, right? He will be a wild donkey of a man, right? Shepirusho adam chazak v'takif kipere v'hi chaya ba'alas koach. Yeah. Okay, so what do we get from this? So he's not saying the specific. Interesting. So what's the answer to the specific Mida question?
What do you mean?
Meaning, he said that now in the last passage he says. It's talking about not midos in general, but particular midos. So before it was just talking about general musar. Now it's talking about specific midos.
You scroll down a little bit.
Yeah.
Is he pointing out?
Yeah, I don't see.
I think he's talking about the midah of the mother, maybe.
The midah of the mother.
Right. Of how she raises her kid, right? Of allowing bad habits to persist.
But he's not really spelling it out.
No, he's not spelling it out. Yeah.
That's not a trait, though. That's just.
I think it is a trait. I think it is. Okay, no, meaning it could come from different traits. It could come from different traits. Yeah. But I'm more likely to say it could just be that this is an intro, right? But I think it's more likely to say that it's talking. Look, the subject here is the parents. The object is the ben ksil, right, or the ksil adam. Yeah, Isaac.
Yeah, I'd say if we're talking about what's more local, if we're talking about the more localized thing of what the mother is doing, I think it's letting the pain of like disciplining her kid override other
right, like we were saying before, right? Yeah. Okay, David. Yeah.
Why is he saying that it has to be? He seems very clear this is like a full-fledged conceal.
Yeah.
I'm wondering why it has to be fully done. I think like even like sometimes conceal would also
right. So I'm going to answer that with the Rabbeinu Yonah on Mishlei 1:5. Mishlei 1:4. Laseis lifsaim orma lanar dasam zima. So first two audiences of Mishlei are a pesi, a naive simpleton, and a na'ar. So he says, Huzar al tochachas hana'ar. So he is warning about Shlomo is adjuring you about the tochacha of a na'ar. Alpha pishu ragil b'chet yamim rabim, because even though he's been accustomed in chet for many days, for a long time, b'peshu tachas yad ha'av liyasro ulahakoso. So number one, he's under the discipline of the father, that the father can still rebuke him. Secondly, is there is hope that he can conquer his taiva and change his nature since he's still in the days of his youth. And it's written later on in Mishlei, that foolishness is bound up in the heart of the youth, but a rod of discipline can distance him from it. So I think he's saying that it's a ksil adam because that's the point of no return. That as long as he's still ben ksil, so then even if the mother is failing to like properly discipline him by raising him with bad habits, the father can still maybe change the trend through shevet musar. But once he's ksil adam, then the father can't have any influence anymore. Yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't think this is what it's that was
Sheishes, yeah.
I don't know if this is what he's saying, but it's possible he's also highlighting another element of like, if you're not on the same page on parenting, then like
that is definitely a thing. It takes it does take two to tango.
Yeah, and like it's he is. I don't think that's the subject of what his explaining.
No, but
like he definitely is.
You can definitely infer that from what he's saying, and the other thing also is it does seem like all things being equal, if you have to have a choice between a mother raising the kid well without the father disciplining, or the mother raising the kid poorly with the father disciplining, sounds like it's the mother's more important. Habits are more important than intervention. It seems. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if patients would agree with what you said about the if someone is a ben ksil, that the mother is continuing to raise them poorly, that the father can salvage it. So I think that's exactly what you're saying. The father can't.
No. Davka, the opposite. Meaning, if he's still being raised, then maybe the father can discipline him. Yeah. But and then I think just his emphasis on the ksil adam, I think was the original question, which is why I think, according to him, that has to be the decision-making scenario here, or not decision. That has to be the parameters. Yeah,
he'll beat the foolishness out of him.
That's one way. Yeah. Okay. There is an approach though where it is. Someone talks about kibud av ve'im. Maybe Rabbeinu Yonah. Let's try this. Ben chacham yisamach av ksil adam. This is a long Rabbeinu Yonah, by the way, which I did not understand. So we'll try this. Ksil boze. Es kol mishlo yare oso. So ksil is going to be mevaze, anyone who he does not fear. Gam im nischaya b'mora'u chvodo tachlis chova. Even if he has the utmost chiyuv in revering and honoring that person. Ki ein ksil muchrach bedavar mehachreach hadas. The ksil is not compelled by anything based on reason. Ki im behachreach shevet v'ema. the only thing that compels him is a rod of discipline and fear. Al Cain, who boza es imo, therefore he disparages his mother. She'ein shivta be'emasa alav ke'emasa av, because her disciplinary rod, and her fear is not upon him like the fear of the father. Vasher kro hina ksil adam kigam livnei adam nikra ksil misha boza imo kigam hamon am haaretz darcham bechavod kibud avaim. So what is he saying there? Kigam livnei adam nikra ksil. I think he's saying ksil adam is a ksil in the eyes of other people.
Because
Kigam,
Yeah,
because even to other people, he's called a ksil, someone who is called a ksil because he's boza his mother, right? Didn't we have a translation that kind of said that? The most unwise among men is one who despises his mother, meaning that because he despises his mother, that's why he's being called a ksil. Igam hamonam, it's even the average person, darcham l'chibud avaim. So this guy is like defying social norms in terms of what you should or shouldn't do with your mother. Va'adam shem haklal nefesh adam la'amo yulad yivaled v'al goy v'al adam yachad v'al kol ha'umos. Don't know what he means there. Human, is he translating ksil adam differently? Yeah, I feel like he's translating it differently, but he's at least explaining it differently.
Without context of like what adam means in those seconds.
Yeah, I mean nefesh adam. Yeah, I'm not sure. V'yisyachsu b'chlal ze ha'amim rabos hamon ha'am, and people will v'yisyachasu b'chlal ze ha'amim rabos hamon ha'am hanotim v'tavosam u'maseim l'toledes ha'adama v'lo el nefesh ha'chachama. Okay, so maybe he's saying like this means like the Rambam's pshat. No, whose pshat in Am Haaretz is that their nature is like more coarse. Like it's more stemming from their physicality, like Adam, like Adama, rather than their rational faculty, right? They're saying that Yisyachasu bichlal zeh pamim rabos hamon ham, meaning the members of the Hamon are often put into this category because they are notim betavasam l'asem toledas Adama. They're drawn to like earthly physicality rather than to their rational soul. Gam b'nei Adam, gam b'nei ish. Ach hevel b'nei Adam, kazav b'nei ish. Ma'alasan mechazeves ina nimshachas. B'moznaim la'alos. Okay, fine. Achein gam b'nei ish ba'olam la'alos b'moznaim hema mehevel yachad. Okay, so he's going into interpreting that pasuk. Is that Yirmiyahu? Or no, Tehillim. Okay, fine. Ki in mishkalam nechshav l'muma. U'b'nei ish. He's just like spiraling off into like interpreting these other pasukim here. Heim b'nei adam hanichbadim ba'olam b'sichlam v'charitusam. Okay, so he's trying to say like you got two types of people, Bnei Adam and Bnei Ish. Bnei Adam are people who are drawn to taiva, and Bnei Ish are people who are drawn to like their human quality, which is their rationality, their seichel. Uba al derech hazeh shekasavnu uksil adam yivalenu ki hamavalea otzar aviv gam lahamon ha'am yikar eksil. So his point also is that this guy is being so. This is interesting. The Metzudos said that it's talking about social degradation to the mother. This is saying you're going to be socially designated as a ksil. So they're both caring about the social, I guess, because of the bizoi part, right? But what is he saying here? Why the emphasis on like in other words, the average person does not degrade his mother, right? But a person who is what does Rabbeinu Yonah think this person actually is? Sounds like he's saying he actually is a ksil, but a lot of ksilim are not diagnosed as such by people who don't know Mishlei. But this guy will be diagnosed as such because anyone who degrades his mother everyone knows that that's ksil. Yeah.
So this is actually what I like kind of wanted to say from the start, but I thought it was into it. But
now you got the matir, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the reason why the ksil degrades people is because he's concerned about his own cover, and he feels like if he's showing respect to someone else, that's gonna make him lesser, and so that's what he does to most people. And people don't necessarily judge someone for that. When someone is degrading their mother, then it's like then the very consequence that he's trying to avoid of lower himself socially is the thing that he's causing himself.
Interesting. So here's why I still think maybe you're reading into it, but I don't know for sure. So you asked me, Ezra, yesterday, what's my definition of ksil? So the definition we've been working with for ksil is really from this Rabbeinu Yonah in 122, which is at the very end. Uksilim himbali hapulos haraos. So people who do bad actions. But overim averos lamalos mishalos einehem, and they violate averos to fulfill whatever desire their eyes seek. B'inyane hanaosam v'ta'anugehem, in terms of hana'a and ta'anug, of enjoyment, and that's contrasted with the na'ar who does this. There's another pasuk that compares this to a na'ar to ksil. Na'ar is doing this, but his nature is not yet solidified. So our go-to phrase is ksil is a veteran pleasure seeker. Meaning he's done that for so many years that becomes his hardwiring. Okay, so the question, and this is not an objection per se. The question, which I don't know if I have a stance on this, but if I do, I don't remember it, is how much is the ksil driven by ego, and how much is he really just driven by taiva? So what I would be inclined to say is that the reason he degrades his mother is not. I don't see evidence that it's out of ego, but I would see evidence that because if she tries to interfere with his taiva at all, then he rejects her. Yeah.
I think he definitely does care about ego, at least somewhat. Like we saw,
Right.
Like he's only interested in insight for if it makes him look good.
Okay, so I'll answer that, and that I do have a stance on, is that the way he's egocentric is because he expects the world to revolve around him, and when he's involved in tfuna, he's only interested in things that confirm his own understanding. But the type of ego, for example, we see that the Russia is concerned with is the Russia is going to climb the ladder to try to be better than everyone else. And I don't know if I see Ksilim vying for kavod, Yeah.
I'm not saying here. I'm not saying kavod in like that type.
Yeah. Right.
I'm saying that there being someone who's like above him.
Yeah.
That like is something that he would hate for him.
Right.
And I think he also doesn't want like social pain of being looked down on.
Right. Okay. So that might answer the question that I was going to ask. My main question on the Rabbeinu Yonah is who's this for, right? So it's going to be hard to say it's for a full-fledged, Rabbeinu Sheishes, is a full-fledged ksil, right? Because he's not going to listen to Shlomo anyway, right? So who is it? Oh, so maybe it's saying like this. Maybe it's saying that, again, everyone has a little bit of every Mishlei archetype, a pintala ksil, right? The real phrase is pintala pesi, right? I think that's how I coined it. It sounds better, but everyone has ksil tendencies, and this is going with what Moshe was saying. Was that about the rebelliousness, right? So the thing is that if you allow that to diminish the reverence that you are chayav in for your mother, or to if you allow that to cause you to reject her discipline, you will be considered a ksil by other people. Now, your gut reaction is going to be, well, I'm not a ksil, and you're not, but you're going to be looked at as a ksil, and that caring about people looking at you as a ksil could keep you from doing that. And you see this happen. I'm sure we can all experience this, even if we didn't act on it. Like, if your mother reprimands you in public, you definitely want to defend your honor by like downplaying like what she's saying or whatever, like it is. I mean, it's people tend to not use the word nagging by fathers, but they use it by mothers, right? There's a special quality in the mother telling you how you should behave, and when it's in public, it's like very bad, So if you act on that, especially if you do it repeatedly, people will designate you as a ksil, or view you as a ksil in that area, It still is a very interesting, weird shot, but it's not what I was given. So let's just summarize what we have for today in the notes here. So we have Metzudas David, who's saying that this is advice for parents who are invested in social approval and disapproval. That if you really care about social disapproval, you will correctly discipline your child in his youth, because if you don't, you'll get major long-term, long-lasting disapproval when your son turns out to be a ksil. Okay, so that's the Metzudas David's approach. We have Rabbeinu Sheishes, which is that the mother has a special role in raising the kid with good habits, and if she fails in that role to the point where he reaches maturity as an immature ksil, then that's a point. That's a point of no return, and she can't rely on her husband to discipline him anymore, right? And that's the thing, you do see people say that with their adult children, like mothers who rely on the father to intervene, but there's a point where intervention will not help anymore, and do we say anything else for Rabbeinu Sheishes, or was that the main idea?
There's also Rabbeinu Yonah.
Yeah, and then Rabbeinu Yonah is that if you give in to the natural tendency to reject your mother's discipline in a disrespectful way, then even if you're not a ksil, in reality, you will be branded a ksil by others. And since that's the whole reason why you are publicly, rejecting her, i.e., to maintain your kavod, then this is something you care about. Yeah.
I don't know if you wanted to document the Sheishes' take on which meter this is.
Yeah. It seems like this is a mida of the mother in withholding discipline. Yeah, Isaac, do you want to say something? No. Okay. All right. Good. So we did get I'm glad we got a different idea than 10.1. I mean, I know we didn't go over all my ideas in 10.1, but this is sufficiently tied to bizoi, which is the derech, presumably, because the first project didn't mention bizoi and this one did. Okay, nice. Till next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Bye.
I forgot.